What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. Today it's team selection time ahead of game week 11. So we're going to go through how I did in game week 10. And it wasn't that high a scoring week for most people, I don't think. If you had a big week, like 70 points plus, you probably got a really big green arrow. So it's one of those weeks where not everyone did extremely well, but it wasn't an awful week earlier. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Obviously, look ahead to game week 11, including captaincy, transfers. It's a big transfer this week. I'm fairly set on what I'm going to do. And I think most of you will be pleased, although I'm sure there's going to be some I told you so's in the comments as well. So keep an eye out for that in just a second. Please do hit the like button if you've been enjoying this series this season. And obviously hit subscribe and the notification bell if you haven't already, so you know, and all my other stuff is going live. And so you don't miss it throughout this Christmas period where it's going to be extremely busy. Let's see how we did in game week 10. Quick shout out to One Footballer sponsoring today's video once again. Please do give it a download if you haven't already. Thanks to everyone that downloaded it last week when I mentioned it. It's completely free. What have you got to lose? The link is in the description below. You're on an iOS device, you're on an Android device. It doesn't matter. It will take you straight through to the store. You get your team news, your lineup news, your injury news, and there's going to be lots of important team news this week as we look towards kind of Newcastle and all the self-isolation that's going. A lot of us on double or triple Villa. It's going to be big news. So you want One Football to keep up to date with that. You get your live scores at the weekend, your goal notifications and all that good stuff. And what's more, like I've already said, it is completely free. So please do give it a try if you haven't already. It really does support the channel. It's link in the description below. Like I said, it'll take you straight through to the shop. Download it for free. Give it a go. See what you think. So overall, a pretty good week, to be honest. 61 minus 4 is only 57 total. But given that it's put me from 323k, I believe it was, to 249k, that's a 70k green arrow. I've got to be happy with that. Of course, I'd rather get 70, 80, 90 points and go massively up the ranks. But in a week where I didn't have Bruno Fernandes, none of my strikers did anything, that's a pretty good rank increase. And let's just talk quickly about a few of the points. So I didn't have Bruno Fernandes, and I think we'll talk about whether or not I'm going to bring him in just a second. But sometimes you need to give yourself a bit of perspective. Would it have been better to have Bruno Fernandes? Absolutely, right? And it would have probably been for Son. So it would have been an extra 7 points. But he's only scored 10 points, right? Which is a decent score. If he scored 10 points every week, don't get me wrong, I'd be extremely pleased with that. But Salah was the one that I brought in instead. He got 6 points, so not massively behind. On another day, it could have been a bigger score for him, potentially as well for Bruno Fernandes too. But I'm pretty happy with bringing in Salah. It was always going to be the plan to get him back. That's why I got De Bruyne the week before that, to make sure I had him in place so that I could get Salah back. So I'm not really too concerned I didn't have Bruno this week. I mean, two of my midfielders also got 10 points as well, Grealish and De Bruyne. So it really wasn't the end of the world. In defence, again, really happy. I kept Reguilon instead of going for a hit for a Man City player. I thought that Chelsea-Spurs game would be tight. It ended up being as tight as it can be, a 0-0, which is kind of perfect for me, right? Obviously, there's unrealistic results I could have hoped for, like 2 Reguilon goals assisted by or assisted twice by Son. But realistically, a 0-0 is probably the best bet for me. I didn't have Kane. I only had Son as an attacker, and Chilwell and Reguilon came with 13 points between them. So super happy with that. And really happy with Dallas as well. Leeds probably a little bit fortunate not to concede against Everton. But overall, the better team, I would say, for most of that match. And Leeds fixtures coming up are pretty good, to be honest. And they've got Calvin Phillips there. So I think Dallas is going to provide pretty good value. And while Alioski is playing left back, Dallas is moving into midfield, so he's getting plenty of passes, which is going to help with the bonus as well. So he picked up 2 bonus points in that one. Doesn't necessarily offer a huge amount of goal for it, but he does get in the box from time to time. Martinez, a bit frustrating. Like that Aston Villa game, West Ham was just frustrating all round last night, to be honest, apart from the 10 points from Grealish. West Ham didn't really offer a massive amount going forward. They did threaten a few times, but realistically, apart from a shot by Souček early on, the only real, and that resulted in the corner, I believe. The only other real chances were the 2 chances they scored. Otherwise, Villa, at least in the first half, massively controlled the game. Maybe not so much in the second half, but West Ham didn't threaten them that much. So to concede 2 goals, a bit frustrating. Another set-piece goal as well. And Martinez not looking good, but I'm not going to start worrying about him because then I'll switch keeper. That keeper will do badly. And you know what I always say, the ceiling's just not there to bother getting rid of the goalkeeper all the time. So he's not going. Up front, Calvert-Lewin. Big discussion about whether to get rid of him soon. I'll talk about that in a minute. But a blank, so be it. Watkins and Bamford were the 2 guys that came in. How Bamford has not scored, I do not know. I guess this is what Leeds fans have been telling us. He gets a lot of chances, but his finishing's maybe not the greatest. But he is getting a lot of chances, so that is promising still. Next fixture not great, but the ones after that are pretty much fine. And Ollie Watkins, all right, I've taken more payout for a hit, which I said on the deadline stream was a bad decision. He then gets a -1. I think, right, I'm quids in here. I've got lucky. Watkins just needs to get one return, job done. He gets a penalty. He hits the bar. Then there's a goal ruled out for offside. Look, fair enough, it's offside, but he was possibly fouled in the build-up as well. That could have been a penalty. The annoying thing for me is his first penalty for Villa was quite good, the way he put it away. I can't remember the exact circumstances in the match, so maybe there was no pressure on it, but it was pretty decent the way he put it away. And then he misses this by hitting the bar. And then I find out that's now his 4th miss in 6 penalties. Like, it's very unlikely he keeps them, I think. I think they might just go to Grealish or maybe even Barkley. I think everyone thinking they're going to go straight to Grealish. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we'll have to wait and see. But Watkins, massively frustrating. But overall, I've come out of a big green arrow. I'm looking good for next week. I'm happy. Let's talk about Game Week 11. Okay, so only one free transfer this week, but I do have 3.2 million to spend after doing Kane to Bamford to fund Salah, which gave me a little bit of money left over. And then also I bought in Watkins for more pay. So quite a bit of money spare, which I'll talk about how I'm going to use that in a minute. So defence first. Martinez in goal. I'll really quickly touch on the whole Aston Villa versus Newcastle situation because ultimately I don't have a huge amount of news just yet. We're probably going to have to wait until close to the deadline. And also, I'll probably talk about it a little bit more in the Game Week preview tomorrow. But for anyone that hasn't seen it, there's apparently been an outbreak of COVID in the Newcastle kind of squad. And so they're all self-isolating. They've closed the training ground. No one's going to be training. Now, there are at least headline reports that it could be called off. Now, I don't know how much of that is just trying to get clickbait for people to click it and then hear that actually it might not be. I don't know. We're going to have to wait for more information. I was under the impression that if Newcastle had enough players, because ultimately Premier League players are being tested a lot, right? So they're all self-isolated. It doesn't mean they've all tested positive. So they could just retest them and everyone that's fine goes back to training and plays the match. I was under the impression that if they could field enough players, they had to play the game, right? You can't just say that, Wilson and Fraser and Almiron are all missing, therefore we're calling it off. You've got 3 other players, whether they're young players or whatever, they have to be in the team. So that was the impression I was under, but we'll find out later this week. So potentially a concern with Villa. I'll talk about that when we talk about the whole squad. Otherwise, I'm not really worried about Martinez just yet. The fixtures are still good coming up. In my defence, I've got Lamptey now. I think him and Dallas provide pretty good rotation, right? Don't get me wrong. If I can have Chilwell, Diaz and like a Robertson, that'd be quite good. But it's going to take me a little while to probably build towards that, especially when I bring in a new midfielder probably this week. So I'm not too concerned. I mean, Chilwell's going to play every week. Reguilon's probably the one that stands out, right? But let me tell you something. Reguilon has only blanked once in the matches that he's played. There was that match against Burnley where he wasn't in the team, which was frustrating because they got a clean sheet. But I think only his first game did he get 2 points. And outside of that, he's not yet blank. So he's actually returning quite nicely. He's not got a game where he's got an attack and return and a clean sheet yet. There's been a few attack and returns and then a few clean sheets, and he only got 5 points against Chelsea because of the yellow card. But he's been returning quite well. And now I could do Reguilon to Diaz this week, but the way I'm looking at it is Diaz has played Fulham. Could be a clean sheet there, although they did just do quite well against Leicester. But I would expect Man City to get a clean sheet. But then they're playing Man United, and Man United did quite well against Man City. It's kind of the perfect team. They're going to be able to counter-attack. And I'm not saying Man United will necessarily win that game, but I wouldn't be surprised if we scored against them. So I don't necessarily think that Diaz gets a clean sheet against Man United. He could get attack and returns. He could get a clean sheet. I'm just not putting too much money on it. Whereas Reguilon's about to play an Arsenal team, which hasn't been that attacking. Spurs have just kept Chelsea at bay, and Chelsea's attack is much better than Arsenal's this season. And then they got Crystal Palace away. So I think over the next 2, both Reguilon and Diaz have probably got the same chance of the same number of clean sheets. Probably 1, maybe 2 if we're lucky. So I will look to get Diaz in eventually, maybe in Game Week 13. But right now, he's probably not going to come into me this week come into the team this week. I'm going to trust the defenders that I've got. And look, Brighton haven't kept many clean sheets, but Lamptey against Southampton is probably okay. Maybe a few attack and returns, or at least 1 would be nice. I mean, Southampton's attack has been pretty decent. Another 2 goals against Man United. But I think I'm okay just to kind of risk the defence this week. I think my defence has actually been doing okay recently. So pretty happy with that. Midfield is where the big changes are going to come. Okay, so here's the midfield. And I've been talking about a while, obviously getting Man City players in for this run of games. De Bruyne is 100% my captain this week. The only thing that would change that is if he goes and gets an injury, or Pep says he's not going to play him, or he plays 90 minutes in the Champions League and then Pep says he might be tired. Something like that. But it's Fulham at home, and I don't really mind that they just did well against Leicester. I think Man City's a little bit of a different team, especially going forward, and therefore De Bruyne is almost 100% my captain. What I would say with my midfielders, which players are missing, right? And we go through stages where players are essential, and then 2 weeks later it's a different player's essential. I mean, look at Ziyech, for example, right? A couple of weeks ago, I keep getting asked, why are you not bringing him in? Why do you not have Ziyech? How are you going to get Ziyech in? And now all the questions I get are, who should I replace Ziyech with? And you get that all the time. But right now, if I had to talk about 2 players, I think a lot of people have probably got in their squad or looking to put in their squad and wondering why I don't have them. It's Diogo Jota and Bruno Fernandes, right? And I've only got a midfield 4 because I'm playing 3-4-3. And I can't get both of them as it stands unless I get rid of 2 of these players, right? So this week, let's just say for argument's sake, the game is on, Villa versus Newcastle. There's no way I can get rid of Jack Grealish before Newcastle at home. He also has West Brom to come in the next few game weeks as well. So I'm pretty loath to get rid of him. So getting Diogo Jota in is going to be a problem. De Bruyne and Salah going absolutely nowhere. The rotation between Man City and Liverpool is just ridiculous over the next 4 or 5 weeks. I think they play Fulham twice and West Brom twice, something like that. But for definite in Game Week 11, it's Fulham for Man City. Then Salah is Fulham in Game Week 12. Then De Bruyne is West Brom in Game Week 13. I think Salah is West Brom in Game Week 15, right? So arguably I don't even need Bruno Fernandes. So I'm definitely not going to captain him over the next kind of 4 to 5 weeks. Those 2 are in place. Apart from injuries, they are going absolutely nowhere. So straight away, that's 3 players that either can or do not want to sell for those other 2 players, right? Bruno and Jota. And because a few people will ask, even with 3.2 million in the bank, it's not enough to go from Grealish to Fernandes. I could go Grealish to Jota, of course, he's a bit cheaper, but I can't go up to Fernandes. And then you've got Son. Now, I've already got rid of Kane. I've taken off that plaster. I ripped it off. He hasn't punished me so far. Basically, Spurs games, or at least against Man City and Chelsea, have gone exactly as expected. They've been pretty tight. Look, Spurs did really well against Man City to get that win. But still, there's only 1 return each for Son and Kane. And this is what I was talking about before. No one thinks they're going to stop scoring completely. It's just the volume of kind of chances and volume of points should, for most players, drop when the fixtures are harder. Now, to be fair, if you're thinking about holding Spurs players, they've just played probably their toughest game until Liverpool away in a few weeks. Arsenal at home, Palace away, you could keep them. But I'm going to be honest, Son is probably going for me this week, and I'm probably just going to bring in Bruno Fernandes, right? I think we're starting to see a bit of a holy trinity right now, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Salah, and I think if most people wildcarded this week, they are 3 that they would go for. Then maybe Grealish, then maybe Jota, whatever it might be. But Salah, De Bruyne, and Fernandes looks pretty good. Now, again, captaincy-wise, I'm not going to captain him, right, for the next few weeks. I think it's game week 14, where I think it's something like Liverpool versus Palace and Man City versus Southampton. So you could still captain one of Salah or De Bruyne. And I think Fernandes is an okay fixture in that week as well. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly who it is. But that's the only week in the next 5 that I would even consider. And then when you get to game week 16, Kane has Fulham, right? So Bruno Fernandes is great, and maybe I'm lagging. I'm already lagging behind in owning him. Maybe I'm lagging behind in captaining him as well. But I just know I'm not going to captain him. But I still might bring him in. I just think at this point he's lower owned than Son. How much he's owned in the top 10k? Maybe it's a bit closer, but overall he is still lower owned than Son. And sometimes you get these players with effective ownership where you're punished because you don't captain them because so many other people do. But I don't think they're going to. I think people are going to see, maybe they're not cotton onto it yet, but people are going to see Man City and Liverpool rotation, and they are going to be the top targets. Some people will still captain Bruno Fernandes, but he's not going to be so highly captained that it's detrimental to not captaining, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But I think that has to be my move. He's gone up in price. I knew that was going to happen. Look, with the Newcastle stuff, Champions League this week, there's no way I'm making early transfers. I'll happily pay 10.9 or even 11 million for him if I have to. I'd much rather pay that extra right now and just have that extra little bit of info than to go early and then be punished elsewhere. So Son to Bruno is probably going to be my transfer. That obviously leaves Diogo Jota, and he just can't come in for any of these 4, but maybe a switch in formation is worthwhile, thinking about at least. So let's talk about the forward line. Okay, so we'll add in the forward line. Now, I've just bought Bamford and Watkins, right? So they're not really looking to be sold anytime soon. After Chelsea away, the next 5 game weeks for Leeds, only Man United away, I would say, is tricky. The rest of the other 4 are pretty damn good, right? So I'm quite happy with that. They're still creating a lot of chances. I still see some Leeds fans saying that Rodrigo, they want him to come in and Bamford to go. But I don't know, the way they were all talking pre-season about how Bielsa just sticks to his squad if it's working, I'm just not sure he's going to lose his place anytime soon, so I'm not really too concerned about that. If it happens, then I'll reassess. But we'll come to that when needs be, right? Right now he's looking quite good. He's still getting plenty of chances. Again, how he didn't score against Everton, I do not know. But it is what it is. Watkins, right? Frustrating one. Let me not rant again, but frustrating from game week 10. Look, we don't even know if he's off penalties. Maybe he'll take the next one. Maybe that's not even a good thing if he does. But even if he doesn't, I still think he got a few chances for Villa last night, not a massive amount. He also, by the way, played a really good ball to Trezeguet. How Trezeguet doesn't score, I don't know. In which case he'd be on an assist. The goal, okay, it was offside. I'm not really complaining about that. I think the rant on the stream about VAR was more that we just sat there for minutes watching them measure arms. It's not to do with the fact Watkins, I'm annoyed that he was called offside. It's just the whole VAR thing is just getting a bit tiresome. But yeah, he was offside. But again, a bit like the Salah call, a tiny bit further back, and then he's he's scoring a goal. So his movement is quite good. Newcastle at home is a good fixture. I'll consider it like if, let's say all the matches were on, everyone was fit. If you could give me Callum Wilson instead, who we know is definitely on penalties, pretty good penalty taker, scoring plenty of points this season as well. Would I swap with the fixtures he's got? Maybe, but I'm quite happy with Watkins. So for now, they both stay. Antonio is one to monitor as well. He's back now. He did come off at half-time. I don't know if that's precautionary because he's only just back from injury and they want to manage him, but he's someone to look at as well. Calvert-Lewin is the big talking point, right? He's 7.4 million, I think, for me because his price has gone up, but I had him since 7 million. After Burnley away, the fixtures turned quite a lot, right? And I'd be a hypocrite if I sat here and said fixtures don't matter, because I've talked about that a lot with Kane and Son. Fixtures do matter, right? Again, Calvert-Lewin could score over his bad fixtures, but the volume of goals is almost certainly going to go down. They've also got no fit fullbacks. Coleman and Luca Dean are both missing. Now, you can say that James Rodriguez is going to create chances. Now, of course he is going to, but a lot of the points and a lot of the attacks that happened early on were from Coleman down the right or Luca Dean down the left. And so they are big misses for Calvert-Lewin. So I think after Burnley away, I'm not really looking to get rid of him this week, but after Burnley, there is a case to be made to get rid of him. Now, for me, I don't know if I would go straight to another cheap striker. I might do, but I don't know if I definitely would do that. What I can do is do Calvert-Lewin and Basuma to Diogo Jota and Brewster. That would give me a little bit of money to spend anyway, even with the Fernandes move. And I basically move into 3-5-2. Have De Bruyne, Salah, Jota, Grealish and Fernandes. Now, I wouldn't do that this week, right? Because I'm probably going to bring in Fernandes. But in game week 12, when Calvert-Lewin's fixtures turn, Diogo Jota has that Fulham game. So I'm going to keep an eye on the minutes. But I think he started the last 4 out of 5 now in the league and played a good 80 plus minutes. So we'll see what happens in the Champions League. But that's what I'm thinking about. It would be for a hit, but I would get that Fulham game and perhaps that hit would be repaid straight away, and then I'd have him in for their other good fixtures as well. And essentially I'd be moving to 3-5-2. The concern with that is always, of course, when you want to move back, then it costs you another 2 transfers. How the hell am I going to get Kane in game week 16 when he plays Fulham at home? These are all questions to be answered, but that's what I'm thinking about. But in terms of the team this week, I'm fairly happy with it. Son to Fernandes, and I think this team looks pretty damn good for this week. I'm extremely happy with it. Really quickly, just to touch on the Aston Villa thing. So I've got triple Villa. Not great if the match gets called off. What would I do if that happens? Initial instinct is just to play Dallas and Basuma and bench Grealish and Watkins. Not ideal at all, right? I fully get that. And maybe use a transfer on Martinez because I don't have a spare goalkeeper on the bench. The only thing is, the ceiling for a goalkeeper is not huge, so I could just play with 10 men. But maybe I look to see if there's a better goalkeeper to get from now through until the next wild card. Potentially there is. And maybe, I would make a goalkeeper move. But I don't think that match is going to be called off. If it does, I'll come to that later on in the week and we'll talk about it again. But otherwise, I think the team's looking pretty good. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Please do give it a like. Come on, a like for Bruno Fernandes. Finally coming in. I should really quickly touch on what I talked about before about maybe getting Sterling, then getting Mane, and then looking at Fernandes. I've decided against it just because it's like 3 transfers just to get Fernandes in, and he's going to rise in price. And I can't really be 100% sure that Sterling and Mane will definitely get good minutes in those games. And ultimately, I might have Jota for the Fulham game anyway. So really, it's just Sterling against Fulham. If I was brave enough to captain those players, or if I needed to captain them, then I think that's a bit different. Because getting in like Sterling and then captaining him and getting a huge score could pay off. But let's be honest, I'm doing okay with rank. I'm probably just going to captain De Bruyne and Salah for the next 2 anyway, and therefore it's not quite as exciting to do that. So I'm probably not going to do it. I think the safer play is just to play safe, essentially. Get Fernandes in now, save myself 2 free transfers down the line, do the Jota move, maybe think about getting Diaz in, and not worry about flip-flopping with midfielders. So that's why I'm not going to do that. I didn't touch on that in the video, but I wanted to talk about it there. So yeah, a like for Bruno Fernandes. Please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hopefully you've been enjoying the content this season. Plenty more to come on our way to 125k, which would be amazing. Quick shout out as well to everyone that signed up at Patreon. I'm going to show the Legends Wall in just a second. If you want to sign up, please do. Really good time to sign up now on the 1st of December. You get all that content throughout this month and then going forward as well. So there's Slack access, early team reveals, WhatsApp access if you sign up to that tier. All these videos converted to podcasts. Loads of stuff basically. But big shout out to everyone that signed up. Really do appreciate it. And we've got a few new patrons as well today, or a couple I should say. Mac S and Mohammed J. So thank you very much to you guys for signing up. And if anyone else wants to, link in the description below. I'll leave that video there. I'll be back tomorrow for the Game Week preview. Thanks very much for watching. Bruno is finally coming in.